Testing, testing the audio. Testing the audio, testing the audio, testing the audio. Oh. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the August 2025 monthly update. Biggest update means nothing to you, I'm sure. I've got a new monitor now, so if the camera angle is slightly higher, that is why. I don't know how I'm going to make it work for the gaming stuff, because it's not 16:9, it's slightly taller or skinnier, depending. I mean, it's more box shaped. So I don't know how I'm gonna. I might just have to crop the videos. I'm not sure. But it's something I'm gonna have to work out. It doesn't matter for this stuff like this, of course, because this camera is just this aspect ratio, so it doesn't matter. But for gaming stuff where it records my screen, it's gonna, like, if I change this to like display or something and transform or okay, I don't know how to do that, but basically this is slightly there, you see. So if I do this, this is the, oh, it's not even doing the right bloody screen. It's doing my second monitor. Primary monitor, there. So you see this, so you see it's got these, you can see these black bars at the sides. So it's slightly, it's not quite 16:9. It's slightly skinnier or taller. I mean, it's taller in real life because I've just gotten a bigger monitor. And it actually cuts out some of my second monitor as well. I can't quite see the bottom of it. So yeah, for the gaming videos, I'm either going to have to crop them or stretch them or work out some other way to do it. I'm not sure, but that is not going to matter for a while. I mean, I'd quite like to start doing some gaming videos or live streams this month, even, because it's been about 10 months since I've done a gaming live stream. So obviously, I'll have to see if Digby is available for that. But having said all that, welcome to things that I've done this month. So we will start. I haven't painted anything and I haven't read anything, so you're not going to be seeing any of that. I have made a short film. This was just made very quickly. I just suddenly had the idea. The idea actually came from the soundtrack. But basically, this film is called Suffocation, and it's just sort of black and white, very high contrast stuff, taken from an earlier film of mine called, I can't remember what it was called. It was called like The Possessed Businessman or something like that. Businessman Possessed, something like that. I can't even quite remember. But I basically just cropped it and made it very high contrast and then filmed my screen several times to get the kind of visuals that you see here. I'm not even showing it, but I'm looking at it. And then, but it was the soundtrack that actually gave me the idea. I just came up with this bit of music. And that gave me the idea for the film. So that music hasn't even been released as like a Moid track yet. It will be eventually, but it's come out as a soundtrack to that film first. So yeah, that's sort of the only art-wise thing that I've done this month. So that's that. Moving on to things that I've watched. I've watched 4 very good films this month. I've watched more than that. I watched Alien again, for example. But obviously, as far as watching stuff for the first time is concerned, I've watched 4 very, very good films. Starting with 10 Rillington Place from 1971. Now, this film has only 2 actors in it who I know. Richard Attenborough and John Hurt. But John Hurt, as I think I've mentioned this before, John Hurt is my favourite actor of anything. And this is now the earliest film I've seen him in. Before this, it was, I think, The Shout was the earliest thing I've seen him in before this. But now this is the earliest thing I've seen him in. He doesn't do his own voice in it. He does a sort of a Welsh accent in it, but it's based on real events. It's very slightly altered, but nothing important. All the major stuff is what really happened. About a serial killer who's played by Richard Attenborough. It's only the second film I've seen Richard Attenborough in. The first one, of course, being Jurassic Park. Or any of the sequels, if he was in any of them, I'm not sure. Because I think I've seen all at least the original Jurassic Park films. But yeah, it's a really good film. But then I've watched 4 really good films, so I'm not sure. But yeah, it's very sort of creepy, very good, and yeah, I can't really think of much else to say about it. This is a really good film. The next film, also from 1971, is The French Connection, which I watched it, a few weeks ago, which is when I linked this. But I've also literally just watched it again today because I've just watched it with my mum. So literally, less than 15 minutes ago, we were watching the film. We've just finished it, and yeah, it's a really good film. It's directed by William Friedkin, who directed The Exorcist, and I watched another one of his films here, which I'll talk about in a bit. But of the 3, The Exorcist is still, I think, his best film. But yeah, The French Connection, it's about, it's the first film I've seen with Gene Hackman in it. I haven't seen him in anything else, I don't think. And it's pretty good. It's about some drug dealers and them tracking them down, basically. It has Roy Scheider in it, who I always thought was called Roy Schneider, but on further inspection, there's no N, so I think it's just Roy Scheider. But yeah, he's in it. Great cinematography, especially in the final scene. They use a kind of wide-angle lens. There's some controversy about this film, about the colour grading. Now, I just watched this version, which is uploaded here, which is, I think, just like the normal version, like the most recent Blu-ray or whatever. But the 2008 Blu-ray had this colour grading, which made everything very blue, and a lot of people really hated it. But from what I've seen, I think it looks really good. So I'm not sure. I don't think they ever did it on a DVD, because I looked it up and I couldn't find that colour grading on a DVD. And I don't really get Blu-rays because I'm a DVD, but I'm not going to spend all the extra money for a few more pixels, so I just get the DVDs. So yeah, but I mean, I could probably make it myself. The color grading, it's a pretty simple change. But yeah, so that's that. Then I watched a film called Sorcerer, which is also by William Friedkin and also has Roy Scheider in it. It's from 1977. This, of the 2 of his films that I've watched, Sorcerer I think is the best. The Exorcist is still my favourite of his films. I think I'm going to get into more of his films because I've seen 3 of his films and I think they're all great. So I'm going to get into some more of William Friedkin, I think, at some point. But yeah, The Exorcist is still number 1, then Sorcerer, and then The French Connection. That's my ranking of his 3 films that I've seen. But this is basically, it's about these 4 guys, all of whom have committed crimes in various parts of the world, and they've escaped to this little South American place to get away from it and try and start again. But to start again, they need money. And to make that money, they take up a job of transporting very old dynamite, which is started to leak all the nitroglycerin out of it, and it obviously becomes very sensitive and very prone to exploding. And they have to transport this, and there's this great scene towards the end, or I suppose it's two scenes really, because there's two trucks in the film. But they basically take the trucks with all the, very sensitive explosives over this rope bridge, and it's in the middle of a storm, so there's this raging river, and it's very kind of Fitzcarraldo-y, because they're having to overcome this great obstacle. And even though the obstacle in this is not nearly as big, I mean, getting some trucks over a rope bridge, although impressive, is not as impressive as dragging a boat over a mountain. I think this is more visually interesting. And it, again, kind of like Fitzcarraldo, it's kind of like a cursed production. The first location for the bridge, and it cost $1 million to put the bridge up, the river dried up completely. So they obviously had to move it. So they spent another $1 million setting it up somewhere else, and then that river nearly dried up as well and just turned into like a trickle. So they had to use like water tanks to fill the river back up so that they could film the scene, and use fans and stuff to make it look like it was raining. But it's completely immersive and completely, works, But yeah, it's a great film. And again, the cinematography is just fantastic. I mean, he's a very visual director, William Friedkin, and I just think he's just great. So that's that. And then the fourth and final film that I've watched this month is, I think, the most unique of the four. I don't think it's the best, but it's just really good. And that is Targets from 1968. So this is a film directed by Peter Bogdanovich, who I know is a famous director, but I haven't seen anything else of his. He's also in the film as well as an actor. But the most significant thing about it is it has Boris Karloff in it, and it was Boris Karloff's penultimate film. It was the second film he made before he died. There was a few films that were released like that were released. I can't think of the word, but after he died. Posthumously, that's the word I'm looking for, released posthumously. But this was the penultimate film released during his life. And he kind of plays like a fictional version of himself. He plays this guy called Byron Orlok, which is named after Count Orlok from Nosferatu. And basically, the film intercuts between him, who's basically playing himself, like this aging horror movie actor who's kind of become disillusioned with making films and he wants to retire, and the film crosscuts between him and this other young American guy who turns into a mass shooter, which is based on the Texas University Tower shooting, which was at the time the most deadly shooting in American history, or at least by an individual. It's been outdone more recently, of course. Being America, they always like to, break their previous records on most people killed in a shooting. It's a very popular American pastime. And basically the film crosscuts, and the two stories, they just crosscut back and forth, never interacting until the very end of the film. So it's a really interesting sort of format. It's like essentially two completely unrelated stories just moving along, and then they meet up at the end. It's a really interesting story, but I think it's a really good film. It's got a very interesting sort of tone. It's shot very flat. The light, it's almost sitcom lighting, actually. Everything's lit very, until like the final scenes when everything starts to break down, but everything's shot very flat lighting. And so that, combined with the violence that you're seeing, it's an interesting sort of contrast. It's like some of those scenes in A Clockwork Orange, in a sort of sense like that. But yeah, that's really, so. Even though it's probably my least favorite of the three films that I've put, oh no, I think I might put it above The French Connection, which is probably controversial because The French Connection won like a bunch of Oscars. But anyway, but yeah, that is the films that I've watched. Now move on to the albums that I've watched. So I don't really know how to. I'm just gonna start. I've listened to 3 albums by Harry Nilsson, who's one of these artists who I've been wanting to get into for a while and have finally just done it. I've listened to 3. I've listened to Aerial Ballet from 1968, which is the album that has Everyone's Talking on it. I've listened to Nilsson Schmilsson from 1971, which is the album that has Without You on it. And then I listened to Pussycats from 1974, which was produced by John Lennon. So those are the reasons that I listened to the album, because the first 2 were the only 2 songs of his that I'd already heard, even though they're actually both covers. Everyone's Talking and Without You. And then Pussycats, because that's part of the, John Lennon's Lost Weekend era, which is, I think, possibly my favourite of his eras musically. I mean, Mind Games, which is my favourite John Lennon album, was released during that period, and I just love pretty much everything musically that he put out during that era. And this album is no obsession. Is no. I'm just forgetting words now. It's not different, I can't remember the word. But starting at the beginning, Aerial Ballet is probably my least favourite of the 3, but it still has some pretty good songs on it. It's very sort of 60s kind of cliche kind of stuff. And there's some of it that I don't like all that much, but I think the Bath might be the best song on it, which apparently wasn't on some versions of the album, but whatever. That's probably my favourite song on it. It's like, I think Everybody's Talking is still my favourite song, but then Bath. And there's Mr. Tinker is quite good. But yeah. And the thing about that, there's parts on that album where he sounds a bit like John Lennon. The kind of 60s John Lennon, And the Beatles were actually big fans of Harry Nilsson. I think at some point they said in an interview that he was their favourite sort of musical individual, and that was during the Beatle days, But yeah, that's probably my least favourite of the 3 Harry Nilsson albums that I've listened to. Then I moved on to Nilsson Schmilsson, which was just an immediate up in quality. That's probably my most favourite of the 3. Just so many songs on that are really great. In fact, pretty much every song on it is a masterpiece, nearly. My favourite song on it is probably Driving Along, which is only like 2 minutes. Well, it says here 2 minutes and 4 seconds. It's a really short little song. I think the shortest on the album. Yeah, the shortest song on the album. I always listen to it twice in a row. And listen to the full album, obviously, because I didn't put it on twice. But if I'm ever just listening to the song, I always listen to it twice because I just really, really like it. But yeah, that's that. And then Jump Into the Fire is one that everyone goes on about from this album, and it is really good. It's kind of, again, this is, people are going to say like, this is Hitler, right? But it is very Yoko Ono. Klaus Voormann is on it. He's not playing bass like he does on Yoko's stuff, but the bass, I can't remember who it is who's playing the bass, but whoever's playing the bass is doing a very good impression of Klaus Voormann. I don't know why they didn't just get Klaus Voormann to do the bass, because he was literally in the room while they were recording it. He's on guitar on the song. I don't know why they chose to do it that way, but that's what they did. But the bass is very Klaus Voormann, and it is a lot like the kind of stuff that he does on Yoko's first album. And Harry's vocals are very sort of screamy as well. Not quite as screamy as Yoko, but he does do that similar kind of thing. So I think that it sounds a lot like the stuff that's on Yoko's first album. And is another one of my favourite songs on there. I think probably my second favourite. My 3 favourite songs: Driving Along, number 1, Jump Into the Fire, number 2, and Without You, number 3. But loads of great songs on that. Coconut is probably my least favourite. It's just very sort of, it's kind of a joke song, although it's quite a famous song. I had kind of already, I'd heard the lyrics. I hadn't heard his version, but I'd heard the lyrics, but he actually wrote it. It's like, put the lime in the coconut and shake it all up. That one. I'd heard those words before, but not his version of it. But yeah, it's that's probably my favourite of the 3 of his albums that I have listened to. And then Pussycats. Now, I go back and forth. The second track, Subterranean Homesick Blues, sounds like John Lennon is doing the vocals on it. And I'm really sort of back and forth on it, whether it's John Lennon or Harry Nilsson doing a very good John Lennon impression. I'm not sure, because he does quite sound like John Lennon, because like I mentioned earlier on the other album, there were times where he sounded like John, and again on this album there are times when he sounds like him, but seeing as it's such a perfect, like if it is Harry, he's doing a perfect impression of John Lennon, because it just sounds like John Lennon to me. And obviously John Lennon produced the album and played on it and stuff, so, and he's on the album cover, and his name is on the album cover, so yeah. But this is the album that damaged Harry Nilsson's vocal cords, because it's apparently, and I don't know if it was recorded, and I don't think the recording has been released, but they basically, John and Harry had a screaming competition during the recording of this album, which apparently ruptured one of Harry Nilsson's vocal cords, but he didn't tell anyone about it, so he just went on singing, and you can hear it on a lot of the songs that his voice is very sort of broken, but it sounds great, so I think it was a worthy sacrifice, personally. And apparently his voice got better later on, but some people say it didn't, some people say it did. But yeah, songs on the first track, Many Rivers to Cross, is Number 9 Dream from Walls and Bridges, John's album Walls and Bridges. They basically just took the backing track to Number 9 Dream, slowed it down a bit, added more guitar, and then sung the lyrics to this song Many Rivers to Cross, which is apparently a famous song. I haven't heard it. It's a cover on this album. I haven't heard any other version of it. But yeah, they basically slowed down Number 9 Dream and added stuff over the top of it. And yeah, and then the final track, Rock Around the Clock, has Ringo and Keith Moon on drums. So it's a very sort of all-star album. My 3 favourite songs, Subterranean Homesick Blues is number 1, Rock Around the Clock is number 2, and then I think Loop De Loop is number 3, sorry. Yeah, it's a good album. I like it, but not quite as much as Nilsson Schmilsson. So that's that. Then I listened to 3 albums which I have listened to on vinyl, because I've been on 2 holidays. I have purchased. I've been on 2 holidays. I purchased 16 vinyl records or albums on the first one, and then 12 on the second one. So whatever that adds up to 25, 28. So just this month, I've got 28 albums. And I listened to 3 of them for the first time. I listened to With the Beatles, which is now the earliest album that I own, and it's not a first edition that I have, but it is. Well, I'll go into these details when I do in December, when I do my part 2 of vinyl record collection. You know, every vinyl record that I've got in 2025 is what the title will be. And I've got way more this year than I had. I mean, by the end of December, my total record collection over 3 years of collecting was 31 records. I've more than doubled that this year. It's in the 70. I think I have 74 now. So yeah, that's pretty crazy year. I've also decided, I'm going to go into this later, but I've also decided that I'm not going to buy any more online unless it's one that I can't find in person. So if I've been looking for it for ages and haven't been able to find it, I will then get it online. But I want to just try and just get them in person, because it feels more special to find them in person and then take them home and listen to them. Buying them online, not only can you never be totally sure about the condition, but also it just it just doesn't feel as, you don't feel the same connection to the album getting it online as you do getting it in person. So I'm just going to try and get it in person and only buy online if I can't find it. But I listened to With the Beatles. Now, people will remember I got about halfway through this album about a year ago, or some, maybe even older, because I listened to their first album, Please Please Me, and kind of liked it. And I got halfway through this album and didn't really like it. And obviously, because I've got it on record, I have actually now listened to it in full. And I did quite like it. It's not a very good copy. The vocals are really sort of scratchy and very sort of compressed. It doesn't sound very good, but I have it. So, you know, and it's not one of my favourite albums anyway. So I only got it because we were in this charity shop and it was the only decent album, or the only album that they had that I had even heard of, even though I didn't like it and hadn't finished it. So that was why I got it. Then I got, although this was actually I think the day before, I got the album 1984, For the Love of Big Brother by Eurythmics, first Eurythmics album I've listened to. Now, I picked this up, even though I hadn't heard the album. I picked it up because I thought it was the soundtrack to the film 1984. Because Eurythmics did the soundtrack to the film 1984, which is one of my favourite films. And I really do like the soundtrack to it. Although I have the DVD now, which has both soundtracks. It has the Eurythmics soundtracks and the soundtrack that the director originally wanted, which I haven't heard yet. But basically, this album is not the soundtrack to 1984. It is just an album that they did in 1984 with lyrics and stuff inspired by the story. It's not actually their soundtrack. So I was very disappointed listening to it. I really didn't like it. I don't think I liked a single track on it, to be honest. Yeah, really disappointing. Listen, that. Because I thought it was the soundtrack to the film, but it's not. So that's really annoying. And I didn't like it very much. So there. And then my dad gave me an album. Now this, I was listening to Burnt Weenie Sandwich by Mothers of Invention, which is my favourite Frank Zappa album. I was listening to it physically because that's another one that I've got this year. Got it from different shop. And I love the album cover for it, so I was showing it to my dad, the album cover, and he said, oh, I have a cover that's a bit like that. And he got Alchemy, which is this album by Dire Straits. It's a live album. Now, Dire Straits is my dad's favourite band. I like some of their stuff, not all of it, because I've listened to this album and it's not fantastic. But the album cover is it's not really anything like the Mother's Invention one, but I do quite like the cover. It's kind of Salvador Dali-ish. And yeah, just, I like it. Someone here in the comments has said, the best live album ever recorded by mankind. No. No, it's not. Yeah, it was alright. The songs of theirs that I'd already heard, I prefer the studio versions to the live versions here. And the live songs here that I hadn't already heard are not amazing. So I didn't like it all that much. But I'm going to keep it because I like the cover. I like the artwork. So one of the sleeves inside, weirdly enough, is a sleeve from the Kinks. The disc is still the correct disc, but one of the sleeves is from a Kinks album, which is really weird. But yeah, that was that. And then I listened to 3 Bob Dylan albums. The third of which is the reason this live stream has been delayed by a day. I was supposed to be doing this yesterday. But I wanted to listen to 3 Bob Dylan albums, and I got caught up listening to the Ricky Gervais show. I listened to Series 0, which is the one they did before Carl joined. So it was just Ricky and Steve, and it's really, I mean, obviously it's funny. Which was done in 1998. And basically, I got so caught up listening to that by the time I realised what time it was 4 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't have time to listen to the album, so I delayed it by a day to listen to the third of these 3 albums. But, starting with, Highway 61 Revisited from 1965. I enjoyed a lot of this album. Not all of it, but I enjoyed a lot of it. The best song is Like a Rolling Stone. But there are a few other pretty good songs. Takes a Lot to Laugh, Takes a Train to Cry. I enjoyed that. And Desolation Row, I thought was pretty good. A bit long, at 11.5 minutes. Could have been a bit shorter, I think, but it is Bob Dylan to the end of the day. So yeah, that's that. Quite liked it. Preferred it to the one that he did previously to that, which was the one where it was half acoustic, half electric. This one's fully electric, so I prefer it to that. What was it called? Can't remember what it was called now. Bringing It All Back Home. That was it. I prefer this to that. Then I listened to John Wesley Harding from 1967, which is significant because it is the album that contains All Along the Watchtower, which is obviously most famously covered by Jimi Hendrix. The Jimi Hendrix version is a million times better than his version, and Bob Dylan actually agrees with me on that. So there. This is now my least favourite Bob Dylan album I've ever heard. I really don't like it. Just all the tracks are slow. They're all mostly acoustic. Just really boring. There's a couple of songs that I like, kind of, like the title track and As I Went Out One Morning. And Down Along the Cove are all right. Quite. I mean, they're the kind of things that I'll probably enjoy more on a re-listen, but yeah, I did not like the vast majority of this album. Really didn't like it. So that's that. Then, the best of the three albums is Blood on the Tracks from 1975 now. Initially, I went through like a flip-flop with this album, because I was looking forward to it because it is the follow-up to Planet Waves, which is my favourite Bob Dylan album. And it's still, after listening to these three, Planet Waves is still my favourite Bob Dylan album. So I was looking forward to it. Then I read the Wikipedia page where it said that even though he was originally going to record it with a full band, and then decided to record it with stripped-down acoustic versions of the songs. Stripped down acoustic versions. And then I didn't want to listen to the album. And then I did listen to the album, and it's not stripped down acoustic at all. They've got a full band going. You know, I mean, the acoustic guitar is kind of the main instrument in them, but they've got organ, they've got a bassist, it's not stripped down. Acoustic, maybe, but it's not stripped down at all. It's a great album. It's not my favourite of his, but it's my favourite of the three that I've listened to this month. The best songs are Tangled Up in Blue, You're a Big Girl Now, Idiot Wind, and Meet Me in the Morning. Those are the four songs that I really liked off of this album. There's a song called Lily, Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts, which is pretty good, but it's about twice as long as it needs to be. It's nearly 9 minutes long. It's 8 minutes 53. I think, and it's a very fast-paced song as well. I think 4 minutes would be a better length for the song, personally. Or maybe, I mean, what it could have done, because obviously it's a kind of storytelling song, and so obviously if you cut it in half, you're cutting half the story out of it. So what I probably would have done is split it in, keep all of the song, but split it in half. So have like the first song early in the album, and then the second half later in the album is like a reprise or a continuation, or like a part 1 and a part 2. But with other songs in between them, that's what I would have done to keep the full story, but to keep the flow, because it does. even though it's them going full speed the whole time, there's no sort of progression at all. It's just like, I mean, there is a same. Well, I mean, that is actually, I shouldn't say that, because the biggest problem with John Wesley Harding, and the reason it's my least favourite Bob Dylan album now, like, 2 of the songs have a chord progression. Pretty much every song is just one chord being strummed the entire time. And it's so immensely boring. And the harmonica, and this is a big problem I have with a lot of Bob Dylan's 60s material, the harmonica is mixed way too loud. I have to have the entire album turned down for when the harmonica comes on, because it's ridiculously loud, right? Compared to all the other instruments, so it's really annoying. That's something that Blood on the Tracks corrects. Not only does it not have as much harmonica as the others, but when there is harmonica, it's mixed a lot more sensibly. So that's another part of the reason it's my favourite of these 3. But yeah, that is that. So yeah, that is that. I just said that twice. Do you want to say it again? That is that. If I could do like my top 5 like Bob Dylan albums now, I think they would probably be, this is controversial, Planet Waves, number 1, Self-Portrait, number 2, Blonde on Blonde. I knew it was there, I was just trying to remember its name. Blonde on Blonde, number 3. That's another reason John Wesley Harding was so disappointing, because Blonde on Blonde is a great album, and John Wesley Harding is the follow-up. So that's another reason it was as disappointing as it was. So, Planet Waves, Self-Portrait, Blonde on Blonde, I think Dylan, and then Blood on the Tracks. I think that's my top 5 at the moment. I know 2 of those in particular are really hated albums. People hate Self-Portrait and Dylan, but I don't care. I think they're great. So yeah, that is that. So now, recap. If you can only watch one thing that I've done one thing, so it's Suffocation, the short film. If you can only watch one film, now this is difficult. I'm going to have to do 2. I think the best story, if you want a film that has a really good story, go with 10 Rillington Place. And if you want the film that's the best visually, go with Sorcerer from 77. So yeah, 10 Rillington Place and Sorcerer are the 2 films I would recommend. And if you can only listen to one album from this month, make it Nielsen Schmielsen by Harry Nilsson from 1971. That's the best album by far that I've listened to this month. So yeah. Plans for next month. Should have done this earlier. Like I say, I did actually talk about this earlier. I'm doing it again, whatever. I might resume. I'm definitely going to record some more gaming videos because my brother is actually gone with my dad. They've gone on holiday to America, so they're going to be gone for about a week. And so obviously he won't be on Steam, so I need to use the opportunity to record stuff on Steam. So I'm definitely going to be recording stuff. I'm not guaranteeing this, I might resume uploads on the gaming channel at some point. If I do, it'll be about halfway through the month. I might, but I'm not guaranteeing it. And I also might do some gaming live streams on the other channel as well. Possibly. I mean, that really depends on Digby. I'm going to ask him, I think after this live stream, I'm going to ask him what days he might be available to play some Garry's Mod or other games. I don't know. So yeah, I might do some gaming live streams because it has been a very long time. 10 months, as a matter of fact. But yeah, having said all that, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope you've had a good August. I hope you have a good September. And I'll see you on a future occasion.